Joining me now is Sarah Sanders, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the Deputy Press Secretary in the White House to Sean Spicer. Sarah, good to have you with us.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Hear you fine. Thank you. We're good to go.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, Sarah, thank you. I tell you what, you have to say hi to your mom because I had her in my studio. I had your mother, Shannon Huckabee, came to our studio during this past presidential cycle in Virginia. I've had your father on my show many times, and I covered your dad's campaign in 2008, where he got screwed in Greenville in South Carolina. I mean, I have this memory. I remember all this stuff when he got off his airplane in Greenville. It was a Saturday, and it was sleeting and ice, and that was your base, and there was all sorts of shenanigans going on there, and Mitt Romney dropped out of the South Carolina primary 2 days ahead of time. Fred Thompson stayed in. I'll never forget those 3 days there in Greenville, but good to have you with us, Sarah.
Great to be here, and that 2008 didn't work out quite how we'd hoped, but 2016 was good, and I'm excited and honored to be in the White House today.
Okay, well, you be sure and tell your mom that I said hi, please.
I absolutely will.
Okay, let's get to FBI Director James Comey yesterday. He says there's been an investigation on Trump's associates and Russia since July. Sarah, that's 9 months, right? People can have a baby in that time. They found nothing.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's pretty ridiculous, frankly, that we're even still talking about it. If there was really something there, they would have found it over the last 9 months. I think that Comey validated what we've been saying all along, that there is no there there. They've been investigating this, again, for this extended period of time and have continued to come back with the same answer, that they see no evidence of any collusion or cooperation. And I think it's time to move on and, frankly, focus on the things that Americans care about, like health care, national security, creating jobs, economic growth. That's what keeps certainly most parents up, myself a parent of three, certainly what keeps me up at night, and I think that's what we need to be focused on.
Well, you know, Sarah, it is amazing that the FBI and its staff can go through 50,000 Anthony Weiner emails in 72 hours and find nothing. But this thing is going on for 9 months. I mean, I found it to be mind-boggling. It's like, when are you just going to drop the sword and say there isn't anything here? It's ridiculous. Let's get to the surveillance on Trump Tower, the tweets that the president sent out 3 weeks ago. So what we know is somebody got General Flynn's phone calls intercepted. Somebody did the transcript. Somebody leaked it. No effort to find who these people are. What's the story with this surveillance of Trump Tower?
You know, look, I think there's obvious that something took place. Otherwise, General Flynn certainly wouldn't have been outed. He was not only unmasked as an American citizen, but also that information was leaked. And I think that the leaks in the intelligence community are certainly very problematic, something this administration takes extremely seriously. And, you know, we've got to put a real focus on ending that, not just because of the surveillance that may have taken place at Trump Tower, but because it's a national security concern. And again, that's something we take very seriously, and that's where we think that the focus should be moving forward.
Okay, so we've got that. What is the administration now looking for the FBI director to do? What do you think is the end game here, Sarah?
I think he needs to get to the truth. I think they need to get to the bottom of what took place in terms of who ordered the unmasking, who leaked that information, and put a stop to it. I think we've got to find out who is leaking classified information from intelligence communities and put a stop to that.
Sarah, I got to deliver here some interesting news. I just had Congressman Republican for Virginia, Tom Garrett, on our show. He says that they've got way over the 22 no votes they need in order to stop Ryan Care, if you will, from passing Thursday. We know the president's coming to the Capitol today. How do you think this is going to play out?
Well, look, I think that there's no better negotiator and deal maker than Donald Trump, and I think that the president is certainly looking to work with Congress, and this is the vehicle to repeal and replace Obamacare. Republicans have been campaigning on this and talking about it for the last several years, and now it's time to put some of those words into action. And this is our opportunity to repeal and replace Obamacare. This is how it needs to happen, and I think that it's going to, and I think we're going to see some of those House members that may not be fully on board right now come on board in the next several days.
All right, I think it's going to fail. I don't think you're going to get it through the House. We don't think much of the bill, so I don't think that's a bad thing. I know you don't want to speculate, but after that, what are you going to do? Are you going to let the Freedom Caucus perhaps go back to the table? What's going to be step 2?
Well, I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one, John, because I do think we're going to get there, and so I don't think we have to start working on that Plan B, because I think we're going to get through the House and through the Senate, and we're going to, make health care more affordable, more accessible, and actually give people coverage or care, not just coverage. And I think that's an important distinction to make that Secretary Price has been talking about continually through this process. Is just because people have a card that says they're covered, that doesn't mean they're actually receiving care. And that's a big part of what this plan focuses on. There's also some components coming out in prong 2 and 3 that allow for a lot more state flexibility through block grants and taking health care across state lines, which I think are big components that a lot of conservatives want. I think one of the big things that isn't being talked about and that people are ignoring is how friendly this legislation is to the pro-life community, and I think that's a really big step forward and something that I hope more conservatives will get on board with and talk about, and certainly be part of the reason that they ultimately get on board to support the bill.
Hey, Sarah, we're almost out of time. I've only got one more question. A lot of stake is being put on what Speaker Ryan and Secretary Tom Price are calling Phase 2 and Phase 3. However, we have had congressmen on our show saying Price isn't going to be able to do Phase 2 and change the regulations because Obamacare is not going to get fully repealed. Those things are already baked in. How do you guys respond to that?
Look, I think some of those, my understanding is that process will start in as early as 2018. We'll be loosening the restrictions on the financial structure of insurance plans that are offered on Obamacare exchanges, which will give individuals and families access to lower premium options. Those are a big deal. That's something certainly that we have to focus on. And I do think, I have to, again, just disagree with some of those members that the prong 2 will absolutely provide essential regulatory relief. And the third phase, if you will, coming in, helps reform health care through that additional legislation that allows health insurance to be sold across state lines, which I know is a big sticking point for a lot of conservative members. And that's an important piece of this plan, is not just looking at it, the first step, but looking at all 3 parts of the plan. And I think that if you try to single out one piece of it, you're making a big mistake, because this is a comprehensive health care reform. And it's also something that allows the Secretary to have a lot of flexibility in terms of providing states, also letting them be sort of the laboratories for testing some of these different ideas that different members of Congress and governors have that they want to try in their own state.
All right, we're out of time. I want to thank Sarah Sanders for being with us. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is the Deputy Press Secretary for President Trump in the White House. Sarah, we appreciate the time and your insight. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, Sarah Huckabee Sanders with us here from the White House live on the John Fredericks Show. We appreciate that. Sarah predicting that this bill is going to pass. I don't think it is, but look, that's why they have the vote, right? That's why they play the game, as they say.